Welcome to this brief tour of the Greek text of St. Paul's letter to the Philippians. We'll walk through the text sentence by sentence, and in each sentence we'll move cluster by cluster. We'll not do an in-depth analysis of the text. Instead, I'll be offering help with the parsing and grammar in order to sort out the flow of the Greek, and add a few comments along the way about some of the details. Once you've worked through a sentence, I highly recommend that you read it repeatedly, including reading it out loud. This repeated pronunciation and hearing the text is a way of meditating on it. By such repetition, you review the vocabulary, the forms, the grammar, and that will help you learn them and also make you more comfortable with Greek. You can become fluent one passage at a time, which is a major theme in using and enjoying biblical Greek. So check out this book if you want help with becoming more fluent in Greek, as well as some approaches to meditating on the text. As we go through the text of Philippians, I'll be using sentence scans and sentence maps. These techniques are described in using and enjoying biblical Greek, but you'll probably be able to make sense out of them without studying the book. I've also offered a brief introduction to these techniques in a couple of videos that I'll mention shortly. I'll be using the SBL Greek New Testament for our base text, since its permission for use is very generous. So in this series, all citations, unless otherwise marked, are from the SBL Greek New Testament, and here you see the copyright information. If you prepare using a different edition, you'll notice a number of differences, but they're mostly small things like punctuation. And I'll mention any places where the UBS 5 or NA 28 text has a significantly different reading. Now, while this set of videos is not a detailed study of Philippians, I will be referring to several resources as we go along. So at this point, I'll mention some of these basic resources and then probably add some further ones as we go. Here are some of the lexicons I'll be using. The old one by Abbott Smith is one of my favorites. It's available online, as you see, from archive.org, although it's an earlier edition, I think 1922 if I remember right. But the differences aren't all that great, so the online one is very useful. Abbott Smith has a number of features in it that aren't in other lexicons, and I'll be showing you that as we get into the text and give you some samples. The large dictionary by Danker, BDAG, that's the authoritative lexicon for the New Testament. And then Danker's more recent concise lexicon, CGEL, as I call it. I use CGEL and Abbott Smith constantly, then refer to BDAG as well, and Barclay Newman's little dictionary that you can get bound into the back of UBS or NA text, or separately, is helpful for just a quick gloss definition of some words, but also very helpful for parsing helps. And it's got a number of other features too, but it's obviously not as thorough as these other ones. I discuss these lexicons in more detail in using and enjoying biblical Greek. And here are three lexicons that cover ancient Greek in general. The first one, Little, Scott, and Jones, has been authoritative up until recently. Middle Little, the intermediate one that you see there, was actually based on a much earlier edition of Little Scott, so it's not quite as up to date. But now Montanari, in the new Brill Dictionary of Ancient Greek, that I'm suspecting is going to become the standard. It's not only more up to date, but more comprehensive than LSJ, the Little, Scott, and Jones. He covers material that's very light in LSJ, if there at all, such as the papyri and inscriptions. And he even covers patristic Greek up to the 6th century. I've been having a lot of fun working with Montanari's dictionary. Here are some of the grammars I use frequently. The one by Funk is very helpful, very thorough, and Smythe covers all of ancient Greek. And then Wallace for the New Testament is still my go-to lexicon. There have been some recent intermediate grammars for New Testament Greek, which are helpful in their own way and have some valuable features. And I'll probably mention them at times, but I still find Wallace as a helpful base resource. In Chapter 3 of Using and Enjoying Biblical Greek, I review the basics of Greek morphology. There are 12 core patterns to learn that will enable you to recognize over 90% of the forms you'll meet. These 12 patterns for basic Greek morphology fit on a single page. And it's available at the website connected to that book, Using and Enjoying Biblical Greek. So let me show you that website. If you scroll down, you'll find a link to those videos that have to do with the morphology. And further down, you'll find some handouts, and that 12 core patterns, that's the core pattern summary page you see there, and I recommend you use the PDF version, it'll come out better. And here it is. This page is affectionately known as the sneeze sheet, since it may appear at first as if someone sneezed on the page. And I'll refer to it at times to sort out the forms we meet. But you can see it just fits on one page and gives you the basic data, but you got to know how to use it. You need the decoder ring for this thing, and that's what's in the book and on the videos that I showed you a minute ago. More detailed help with morphology is available in the books by Funk and Smythe. And then Bill Mounce, drawing upon Funk and Smythe in his own analysis, has a very helpful book focused on Biblical Greek for dealing with the morphology. We won't be going into great detail exegetically or any other way in this series, just going through and hitting some of the high points. Here are 5 modern commentaries I find very useful, and I'll be drawing upon them at times, not trying to do a thorough coverage, of course, but here are some resources I recommend you use if you want some to dig into the text. These are 5 of my favorite commentaries. The one by Bachmuel is a little less extensive than the others, but all of them have many insights to help sort out the text. And if you work through the text with 2 or 3 of these resources, it's like being in a small group Bible study with people who have spent a great deal of time studying the passage and have a lot of help to offer. These next 2 texts by Hellerman and Varner are particularly of interest for us walking through the Greek text. They're concise and fairly thorough guides to the details of the Greek. The B&H series that Hellerman's in is more detailed than the Baylor series that Varner's in, but each of them is valuable in their own way since the authors have particular features of the text that they emphasize. As a matter of fact, I think most of the various handbooks, especially in the Baylor series there, each author is allowed to emphasize particular aspects as well as covering the basics. So both of these are wonderful series. The B&H Exegetical Guide brings in a lot of juicy quotes from various commentaries and other resources. So these are both extremely helpful series. I highly recommend them. And those final 2 commentaries are older classic commentaries that remain very valuable. Moll's commentary is brief but has many concise insights on the Greek text, and both of these are available in print, but they're also free on the web, for example at archive.org. So here's what archive.org looks like, and you see this is just a massive collection of material, not just books but software and music and movies, all kinds of stuff. You see how I've typed in the search box here Lightfoot Philippians. So if we go over there, you'll find a number of editions here that are available. I think this second one is the one that I downloaded. But you can just play around in here and find what you want. And so a lot of the older commentaries that are still great by Lightfoot and Moll and Westcott, very helpful on the Greek text, are free here because they're in public domain. So this is a website you could spend hours on. So let's look at some more web resources. I showed you the page from Whitacre on the book Using and Enjoying Biblical Greek. Now let me show you what the website on YouTube looks like for that. So here's the playlist for those videos, and see they're just all here in order. The first 12 of them cover the basics of morphology from chapter 3, and then the last 3 have to do with that chunking and scanning and sentence mapping that I mentioned earlier. Some of the techniques I'll be using, especially the mapping and sometimes the scanning. Less the chunking since it's very imprecise. Here are a few other websites you may find useful. There's so much on the web. These are just a few good places. First, I give you that the official site where you can download the SBL Greek New Testament. So here we are at that site, and you see there's a download button there, and you can download a couple of different formats. Don't find it real helpful to work with the text in that format to find your way around it. At least I haven't figured out how to do that yet. And next, let's take a look at the Perseus website. This is a major website for Greco-Roman texts. And you can find the text in both the original language, Greek or Latin, and English translations. There's also a lot of other scholarly reference works. Smythe's grammar is on here, although it's not real easy to find your way around it in a digital form compared to paper, but it's here. And the LSJ lexicon and the Middle Little are all available for you here. You can also type a form in a search box and find its parsing, which can be very helpful, especially when you're reading outside the New Testament. Because in the New Testament there's other resources you can use. So suppose you're reading Matthew 10:30 and you come across hai triches. You can see from the article hai that this is probably a nominative plural feminine, and the epsilon sigma ending tells you it's a third declension nominative plural according to the sneeze sheet. But you may have trouble finding it in a lexicon because its lemma, in other words its lexical form, doesn't begin with trich. So if you look up the stem, trich, you won't find it. Now, the lexicons by Newman and Danker's Concise Lexicon actually help you because when you look under tau, rho, iota, chi, they'll redirect you to where you need to be for the lemma. But if you don't have print resources or you're reading something outside the New Testament, Perseus is enormously helpful for looking up words. So you go to the All Search Options link there in the upper right corner and click on that. So you see the search box for looking up a word. So just type in the Greek word using the English letters according to that little key at the top there and hit go. And over here you see you get the lemmas, thrix with a theta. And over here you have a basic definition of the word hair. And here's the parsing of it. And they'll often give you more than one parsing because different forms of Greek might have different things. In this case, it's just the difference between a nominative and a vocative, and in the plural, those are always the same form. And then you see you got a link to LSJ and the Middle Little. So click on this, takes us over to LSJ, the authoritative lexicon until recently, and still, of course, very useful. And you see every one of these texts is hyperlinked, so you can click on a word here and it will look up that word for you and tell you what that word is. It's parsing its lemma and a basic definition. And then also be able to go over to Middle Little, take a look at that. You see how much more concise it is. So this is just an enormously helpful resource. Like I say, especially outside the New Testament. There's so many good resources for the New Testament. And obviously, if you just want to look up a word, you can just type in its lexical form. And that'll take you over here to, if you're looking up ago, then you can go to the lexicon and so forth. So you can find your way around it, either a parsing or just go straight to the reference in LSJ or Middle Little. So as you can tell, this is another website you could spend quite a bit of time on. There's all kinds of material here. Now I've got the website. The next one is for Tyndale House, the Biblical Research Library in Cambridge, England. So here we see that page, and if you click on online resources down here, just has a number of free resources, including various lexicons and different fonts, and you can also get a copy of the Greek New Testament and the Septuagint and the Hebrew. So you can poke around on here and find all kinds of different things that are very helpful for biblical studies, especially in the original languages. Next, let me show you briefly BibleHub.com. This is one of many websites for Bible study that contain mostly public domain material, and it's varying in its quality. But for our purposes, this site is helpful for getting the parsing of a form in the Greek New Testament, and also for downloading the SBL Greek New Testament when you want just one particular passage. It's easier to find your way around than downloading the whole thing from the SBL site, at least as far as I've been able to figure out so far. So let's look again at our word triches there in Matthew 10:30 and see how we get help here in Bible Hub. So you see the search box here at the top, so just type in the text you want to be working with. And then that will take you to any number of English translations, as you see, but you can click on Greek here, and that will take you to our word right here in the middle. And you see that it's a noun, and it's nominative feminine plural. And if you click over here on this number, which is a Strong's reference number, it will give you what the lexical entry is and some details about it. And you see over on the right the Englishman's Concordance. It shows you all the different forms it shows up in, and then walks through, gives you all the references. It shows up 15 times in the New Testament and gives each one of them with Greek and then some English translations. So it's a wonderful database for word studies. Then you'll see the older lexicon by Thayer is also included here. Thayer was out of date almost the day it was published, since it was right at the outset of the discoveries in the papyri. But Thayer still has a lot of helpful information in it. Just have to check it out with more recent lexicons. So that's very helpful. And then if we go back to that earlier page, it gives the parsing and all that help like that. You can also look at this in an interlinear fashion if you want. So it's the same material just laid out, maybe easier to read that way. But you can see how you get immediate parsing here and then some lexical help from older public domain material. Now if you want to get the SBL Greek New Testament, go back to that first Greek page and scroll down. You see there's any number of other editions of the Greek New Testament available here. And if you go down to the additional parallel Greek, the first one is the SBL Greek New Testament. And so you can just click on that, and then you can just copy and paste your text into a Word document to work with. That's very helpful for like doing sentence maps or sentence scans or any number of other things, of course. Well, these are some of the resources I expect to mention occasionally. So when I simply refer to a name like Abbott Smith or Hansen, or to an abbreviation like BDAG or CGEL, this video will help you know what I'm referring to. And be assured you don't need to work with any of these resources to benefit from this walk through the text. But as you build your own library, I think they're worth keeping in mind. And for discussion of some of these resources and descriptions of yet further resources, see Using and Enjoying Biblical Greek. And one last point I want to make. I want to acknowledge the participants in the Greek Reading Circle. I'm producing these videos in conjunction with our weekly sessions walking through Philippians, and our discussions help me understand the text better and see points to add or clarify or revise in these notes. Reading Greek in community is a wonderful experience on more than one level, and I highly recommend it to you. So may the Lord bless your continued study in Greek and your reading of His Word.